Welcome to my channel, The World of Science Fiction. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel.
The desert ate sound. No wind, no insects, nothing but the sick crunch of Drake's boots sinking into sand that hadn't seen rain in 70 years. His shadow stretched thin and broken across the dunes. A ghost of the soldier he'd been 3 days ago when the dropship exploded and left him crawling through this graveyard of rust and bone. His lips had split down the middle. When he tried to wet them, his tongue scraped like sandpaper against sandpaper. The corporate kill squad would find his body in a week, stripped by scavengers, the spinal data core they wanted still locked inside his vertebrae. They'd cut it out and never know his name. Something glinted ahead. Drake's vision swam, but the shape solidified as he staggered closer. A horn, maybe 2 feet long, twisted like it had grown from something's skull and been ripped free. The metal surface was covered in symbols that looked organic, almost wet, like they'd been etched by something alive. Half buried in the sand, tilted at an angle that caught the brutal sun. Inside the horn's hollow curve, liquid shimmered. Gold, thick, moving. He didn't ask questions. Didn't care if it was poison or piss or some dead thing's marrow. His body made the choice before his brain could catch up. He grabbed the horn with both hands, tilted it to his cracked lips, and drank. The taste hit him like molten copper and honey and electricity all at once. It burned going down, but the burn felt like life, like his cells were waking up from a coma and screaming in relief. The liquid coated his throat, spread through his chest, and then the pain stopped. All of it. The sun stopped flaying him, his split lips sealed with a wet sound. The deep gash across his ribs from the crash, the one that had been leaking plasma and blood for 3 days, closed like a zipper pulled shut by invisible hands. He watched his skin knit together, watched the bruises fade from purple to yellow to nothing in seconds. Drake dropped the horn, stared at his hands, flexed his fingers. Everything worked. Everything felt better than it had in years, like he'd rolled back a decade of scars and damage and combat fatigue in a single swallow. "You gave me 50 years of life." The voice came from behind him, low and sharp, with an accent that turned each word into a blade. Drake spun. His hand went for the plasma pistol on his hip, but it wasn't there. Lost in the crash, just like everything else. The woman standing 10 feet away shouldn't exist. Her skin was blue, not painted, not tattooed. Blue, the color of deep ocean water under moonlight, smooth and seamless. She wore armor that looked grown rather than forged. Organic plates that curved with her body like they'd been part of her once. One broken horn jutted from the left side of her skull, snapped off halfway, the jagged edge still raw. The other horn was missing entirely, just a scarred ridge where it should have been. She held a blade in her right hand, curved, serrated, the metal black and lined with veins that pulsed faintly red. Her eyes burned with something worse than anger. Disbelief, betrayal, recognition. "What the hell are you?" Drake's voice came out rough, still healing. "I am Kaya of the Tethered Clans." She took a step closer, and he saw the way she moved. Too fast, too smooth, like gravity didn't quite apply. "And you just drank my symbiont." Drake glanced at the horn lying in the sand. "Your what?" "My life." Her blade didn't waver. "That liquid you swallowed, it wasn't water. It was my bond organism, the only thing keeping me alive in this wasteland. 50 years of accumulated vitality, stolen from me 2 days ago when I was ambushed." Her gaze raked over him, and he felt it like a physical thing, invasive and cold. "Now it breathes inside you." He wiped his mouth with the back of his hand, tasted copper. "Then I guess I owe you a drink." Her blade flashed. She closed the distance in a heartbeat, and the edge stopped an inch from his throat. He didn't flinch, couldn't afford to. Flinching got you killed. "No," Kaya hissed. "You owe me your body. By the laws of my people, when one drinks another's life source, their flesh becomes a vessel. You are mine now. Every breath you take is borrowed. Every heartbeat is debt." Drake met her glare without blinking. Watched the muscle tighten in her jaw, the way her pupils dilated, the faint tremor in her wrist. She wanted to kill him. The only thing stopping her was confusion. "Try to claim it," he said quietly. The blade pressed harder. A line of blood traced his throat, warm and thin. He felt his skin knit beneath the cut almost immediately, the wound trying to close even as she held steel against it. Kaya's breath caught. She pulled back, staring at the blood on her blade. When she looked at him again, something had shifted in her expression. "You're healing," she whispered. "The symbiont is active in you. Good for me." "No." She sheathed the blade with a sharp motion. "Not good. Impossible. The bond should have rejected you, torn you apart from the inside. Human biology isn't compatible with tethered physiology. You should be dead." "Sorry to disappoint." She circled him slowly, and he tracked her with his eyes, hands loose at his sides. "Ready?" She studied him like he was a broken machine she couldn't figure out. Something that shouldn't work but did anyway. "What's your name, human?" "Drake." "Drake." She tasted the word. "You're military." "Was. And now?" "Now I'm just trying not to die in a desert." Kaya stopped in front of him. Her broken horn caught the light, and for the first time he saw how exhausted she looked beneath the armor and the fury. Dark circles under her eyes, shallow breathing. She was running on fumes. "The symbiont is mine," she said, but her voice had lost its edge. "By rights I should kill you and reclaim it. You could try." "I could." She tilted her head, and something almost like curiosity flickered across her face. "But I feel it now. The pulse. Your heartbeat." She pressed a hand to her chest, then gestured at him. "It echoes mine. You're not just carrying my life, you're linked to it." Drake felt it too, now that she'd said it, a rhythm beneath his ribs that wasn't entirely his own. A second heartbeat layered over the first, slightly faster, slightly hotter. "What does that mean?" Kaya's expression hardened again. "It means you're coming with me. Like hell. You don't have a choice." She turned and started walking, her stride long and purposeful. "If you're my vessel, then you'll carry me to war." Drake stood there for 3 seconds, weighing his options. The desert stretched endlessly in every direction. No water, no shelter, no way out. And whatever had just healed him was still inside, still working, still keeping him alive. He swore under his breath and followed her. The canyons came at dusk, jagged stone teeth rising from the sand like the bones of something huge and long dead. Kaya moved without hesitation, navigating the maze of rock with the confidence of someone who'd memorized every shadow. Drake followed 5 paces behind, scanning the ridges above for movement. They hadn't spoken in 2 hours. Every time he tried, she shut him down with silence or a look that could cut steel. So he saved his breath and watched her instead, trying to understand what he'd gotten himself into. She moved like a predator, efficient, lethal, aware of every sound and shift in the air. But there was something else too, a fragility she was trying to hide. She stumbled once, barely caught herself, and when she thought he wasn't looking, she pressed a hand to her side like something hurt deep inside. The symbiont wasn't just her life, it was her fuel, and he'd drunk half of it. "Stop," Kaya said suddenly. Drake froze, listened, heard it a second later, the high whine of drone engines cutting through the canyon silence. "Corporate," he muttered. "They're hunting you." "Yeah." She glanced back at him, eyes narrowed. "What did you steal?" "Data, locked in my spine. They want it back. And they'll kill you for it." "That's the idea." Kaya's lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. "Then we have that in common." The first drone came screaming over the ridge, searchlight blazing. Drake dove for cover behind a boulder, but Kaya was already moving, faster than anything human, faster than the drone could track. She leapt, caught the underside of the machine mid-flight, and ripped it open with her bare hands. Metal screamed. The drone spiraled into the canyon wall and exploded in a burst of flame and shrapnel. 3 more drones appeared. Drake spotted the second before Kaya did. Small, fast, already targeting her. He didn't think. Grabbed a chunk of stone and hurled it, the throw wild but close enough to knock the drone off course. "Cover!" he shouted. Kaya hit the ground as plasma fire scorched the air where she'd been standing. Drake ran, staying low, using the terrain. The drones adjusted, trying to flank, but he'd fought machines before. Predictable patterns, limited initiative. He ducked behind an outcrop, counted 3 seconds, then broke right just as the drone fired at where he'd been. Kaya was already on it. She moved like lightning, blade flashing, and the drone split clean in half. The last one tried to retreat. Drake drew the knife from his boot, barely 6 inches, not designed for throwing, and let it fly anyway. It struck the drone's sensor array by sheer luck, and the machine veered wildly before crashing into the sand. Silence fell. Smoke drifted through the canyon. Kaya turned to him, breathing hard. Her armor was scorched in 2 places, and a thin line of blood traced her forearm where shrapnel had grazed her. "You fight well for a vessel," she said. "I fight well for a human." She almost smiled. Almost. Then her gaze shifted to the burning wreckage. "They'll send more." "Always do." "Then we move." They ran deeper into the canyons as night swallowed the sky. The stars here were wrong. Too many, too bright, scattered across the black like someone had shattered a mirror. Drake didn't know what planet this was. Didn't matter. Every colony world felt the same when you were running for your life. They found shelter in a cave carved into the canyon wall, deep enough to hide their heat signatures from aerial scans. Kaya sank against the stone, finally letting her exhaustion show. Drake kept watch at the entrance, eyes on the sky. "You don't understand their technology," Kaya said after a long silence. "Neither do you." "No, but I learned fast." She gestured at the wreckage visible in the distance. "Teach me." Drake glanced back. "Why should I?" "Because if you don't, we'll both die." Fair point. He moved to sit across from her, far enough to maintain distance, close enough to talk without raising his voice. "The drones are automated," he said. "They follow search patterns, grids, spirals, predictable. The trick is breaking their logic. Move in ways they don't expect. Stop when you should run when you should hide." Kaya listened, her eyes sharp and focused. "And the weapons? Plasma, short bursts. They overheat if they fire too long. If you can force them to waste shots, they're vulnerable." "How do you know this?" "I used to fly the damn things." Something shifted in her expression. Not judgment, curiosity. "You were a soldier for the corporations." "Was. What changed?" Drake looked away. "I saw what they were really protecting. Wasn't freedom. Wasn't people. Just profit margins and mass graves." Kaya was quiet for a moment. Then, "My people call them the Eaters. They consume worlds, strip them clean, leave nothing but ash and debt." "Sounds about right." She studied him, and he felt that invasive gaze again, like she was reading something written in his bones. "You defied them. Took something they couldn't afford to lose. Now they're hunting me across half the sector. And you think you can run forever? Don't have to run forever. Just long enough to sell the data to someone who'll burn them with it." Kaya's lips curved. "I like that plan. You're welcome to tag along." "I'm not tagging along, Drake. You're mine. Until I reclaim my symbiont, or until one of us dies, you belong to me." He met her gaze. "Keep telling yourself that." Her smile sharpened. "I will." Hours passed. The cave grew colder. Drake tried to sleep, but every sound outside snapped him awake. Wind against stone, distant thunder, the ghost echo of drone engines that weren't there. Across the cave, Kaya sat motionless, eyes closed but not sleeping. Meditating maybe, or just conserving energy. Then the scream came. Plasma fire lit the canyon mouth like daylight. Drake was on his feet before the sound registered, blade in hand. Kaya moved beside him, already armed, her exhaustion forgotten. "They found us," she hissed. "Back of the cave. Move." They ran deeper into the stone, but the passage narrowed fast. Voices echoed from the entrance. Soldiers, not drones. Human voices. Corporate mercenaries, the kind that got paid in blood money and didn't ask questions. "Sealed in," Kaya said. "No other exit." Drake turned, assessing. 6, maybe 8 soldiers. Full combat gear, plasma rifles, grenades. They'd come prepared. "We fight," he said. "We die. Got a better idea?" Kaya's jaw tightened. For a moment he thought she'd suggest surrender. Then she looked at him, really looked at him, and something passed between them. Understanding, maybe trust. "Stay close," she said, "always." The soldiers entered the cave. Kaya exploded forward like a storm breaking. She moved faster than they could track, her blade a blur of black metal and red light. The first soldier went down before he could scream. The second managed to fire, but Drake was already there, deflecting the shot with a piece of scrap metal he'd grabbed from the cave wall. They fought like they'd trained together for years. Kaya struck high, Drake covered low. She drew fire. He flanked. When a plasma bolt tore toward her back, Drake threw himself in the path without thinking. The impact hit him in the shoulder. White-hot pain exploded through his chest. He hit the ground hard, gasping, vision blurring. But the pain didn't last. Light pulsed beneath his skin, golden and bright. The wound sealed in seconds, flesh knitting back together, bone reforming. He felt Kaya's heartbeat spike in his chest, felt her panic through the link like it was his own. She spun, saw him on the ground, and something broke in her expression. Fear, raw and undeniable. "Drake!" He forced himself up. "I'm fine. You took a direct hit." "I'm fine." She stared at him, at the place where the wound had been, at the faint glow still visible beneath his skin. "I felt it," she whispered. "Through you. Your pain. Your healing." Her hand pressed to her chest, trembling. "I felt it all." The remaining soldiers opened fire. Kaya moved without thinking, cutting through them with a violence that made Drake step back. She fought like she was defending something sacred, like she was terrified of losing it. When the last soldier fell, silence crashed over them like a wave. Kaya stood in the center of the carnage, breathing hard. Blood on her blade, her eyes locked on Drake. "You didn't have to do that," she said quietly. "Yeah, I did." "Why?" "Because you would have done the same." She didn't argue. Couldn't. They both knew it was true. Drake wiped blood from his face. "We need to move. More will come." Agreed. They left the cave as smoke curled into the night sky, two shadows moving through the canyon like ghosts. And for the first time since they'd met, Kaya walked beside him instead of ahead. Not as captor and vessel, as something else. Something neither of them had words for yet. The derelict orbital station hung in the void like a corpse, half its hull torn away by some long-forgotten battle. They'd stolen a shuttle from a corporate outpost. Kaya had killed the guards while Drake hot-wired the engines, and flown through the debris field with every alarm screaming. But the station's gravity still worked, and its power core hummed with enough ghost energy to keep the lights on in sections. It was the closest thing to safe they'd found in 4 days. Drake moved through the rusted corridors with his plasma pistol drawn, checking corners, mapping exits in his head. Kaya walked behind him, silent but present, her blade sheathed but ready. The link between them had grown stronger. He felt her exhaustion like a weight on his own shoulders. Felt her pain when she stumbled and caught herself against the wall. "You need rest," he said. "I'll rest when we're off this station." "Kaya, I'm fine." She wasn't. The symbiont was fading. He could feel it. The warmth in his chest growing dimmer. The healing slower. Whatever connection they shared, it was draining her faster than it should. They found a maintenance bay with functioning doors and locked themselves inside. Drake set up a perimeter alarm using scavenge tech, while Kaya collapsed onto a bench and finally let herself stop moving. "How long before they find us?" she asked. "Couple hours, maybe less. And then we steal another ship and keep running." She laughed, bitter and tired. "You really think you can run from them forever? I've made it this far." "You've made it this far because I've kept you alive." "Fair." Kaya closed her eyes. For a moment, she looked almost human. Fragile, mortal, afraid. Drake turned away, giving her the illusion of privacy. "Tell me about your people," he said quietly. She was silent so long he thought she wouldn't answer. Then, "We were warriors, explorers. The tethered clans claimed 17 worlds before the corporations came. We thought we could negotiate, trade, coexist." Her voice turned sharp. "We were wrong. They destroyed you, enslaved us, harvested our biology, turned our symbiont into a commodity they could sell to their elite. Immortality in a bottle." She opened her eyes and they burned. "I escaped, took my symbiont and ran, spent 2 years evading their hunters, and then you..." She stopped, shook her head. "I didn't know," Drake said. "I know." The anger in her voice faded into something softer. "You were dying. You did what anyone would do." "I'm sorry. Don't be. It's not your fault." She looked at him. "But it's not over. The symbiont is dying in you, Drake. Your body isn't designed to sustain it. Eventually it'll burn out, and when it does, we both die. Yes, Drake sat down across from her. So we find a way to transfer it back. There is no way. The bond is permanent. The only way to sever it is death. Then we'll figure something else out. There is nothing else. There's always something else. Kaya smiled, sad and exhausted. You're stubborn. You have no idea. They sat in silence as the station groaned around them. Drake felt her heartbeat through the link, steady and strong despite everything. Felt the warmth of the symbiont flowing between them like a river neither could control. I don't regret it, he said finally. Kaya looked up. What? Drinking your symbiont, even if it kills me. At least I got to meet you first. She stared at him like he'd spoken a language she didn't know. Then slowly, something in her expression cracked. The armor fell away. The warrior facade crumbled. And what was left was just a woman who'd been running for too long and was so tired. You're an idiot, she whispered. Yeah, I get that a lot. She stood, crossed the small space and sat beside him. Close enough that their shoulders touched. Close enough that he could feel her warmth. If we're going to die, she said quietly, at least we won't die alone. Drake didn't answer. Didn't need to. He just sat there beside her, feeling her heartbeat sync with his, and for the first time in days, the panic receded. The fear quieted, and all that was left was the simple, fragile truth that they were still alive. For now, that was enough. The doors blew inward with a crack of explosives. Drake was moving before the smoke cleared, firing 3 quick shots into the breach. Kaya rolled left, blade already in hand, her movements fluid despite the exhaustion. Corporate soldiers poured through, 10, 12 more behind them. Full tactical gear, augmented reflexes, weapons designed to punch through starship hulls. This wasn't a patrol, it was an execution squad. Down, Drake shouted. Kaya dropped as plasma fire streaked overhead. Drake threw a concussion grenade, scavenged from the station's armory, and the explosion shredded 3 soldiers into burning fragments. But more kept coming. They fell back through the maintenance bay, covering each other, moving like they'd fought together for years instead of days. Drake's pistol ran dry. He switched to a rifle pulled from a dead soldier. Kaya moved like death itself, her blade carving through armor and flesh with surgical precision. But there were too many. A soldier got past Drake's guard, rifle aimed at Kaya's head. Drake threw himself between them. The shot hit him in the chest and the world exploded into white pain. He hit the floor hard, couldn't breathe, couldn't move, felt his ribs shatter, felt his heart stutter, felt his blood pouring out onto the cold metal. Then the warmth came, golden light pulsing beneath his skin, the symbiont surging to life, flooding his system with heat and power and desperate, clawing vitality. His ribs snapped back into place. His heart restarted with a violent jolt. His lungs filled with air. But through the link, he felt Kaya scream. She collapsed mid-strike, clutching her chest, her face twisted in agony. The soldier she'd been fighting raised his rifle, but she couldn't move, couldn't defend herself. Drake forced himself up, every muscle screaming, and shot the soldier through the throat. Kaya! He dropped beside her, hands shaking. Kaya, stay with me. I felt it, she gasped. Your death. I felt you die. I'm not dead. You should be. She stared at him, eyes wide with terror and wonder. You should be dead, but the symbiont, it's keeping you alive. It's burning through me to save you. Drake looked down at his chest. The wound was gone, but his skin glowed faintly gold, veins visible beneath the surface like circuitry. And when he pressed a hand to Kaya's chest, he felt her heartbeat, erratic, weak, fading. The symbiont was killing her to save him. No, he said. No, I'm not letting this happen. You can't stop it. Watch me. He grabbed her hand, pressed it to his chest. Feel that? That's your life, your symbiont. It's not just in me, it's ours, and I'm not letting it go. Kaya's breath hitched. Drake. Footsteps echoed down the corridor. More soldiers coming. Drake hauled Kaya to her feet, ignoring the way his body screamed in protest. Can you fight? She nodded, but he saw the lie in her eyes. She could barely stand. Then we run. They ran. Through corridors filled with smoke and sparking wires, past bodies and burning wreckage, deeper into the station's guts. The soldiers followed, relentless, their voices echoing through the comms. Target acquired. Section 12. Converging now. Drake kicked open a blast door and pulled Kaya through, slammed it shut, welded it with a plasma torch from the wall, bought them 30 seconds. We're trapped, Kaya said. Not yet. He led her to an observation window overlooking the debris field. Below, ships drifted, derelicts, haulers, a few corporate frigates on patrol, and there, docked to the station's lower ring, a sleek black shuttle with active engines. There, Drake said. That's our way out. We'll never make it. We will! The door behind them exploded. Soldiers poured through. Drake grabbed Kaya and jumped. They fell through the zero-gravity section of the station, weightless and spinning. Kaya grabbed a support beam, swung them toward the shuttle bay. Drake fired his rifle one-handed, picking off soldiers as they fell. Plasma bolts streaked past, close enough to feel the heat. They hit the shuttle bay hard, gravity snapping back on, and Drake's knees buckled. Kaya pulled him up, half dragging him toward the black shuttle. The boarding ramp was open. The engines were hot. Too easy. Drake saw it a second too late. The man standing at the top of the ramp smiling, plasma rifle aimed at Kaya's head. Captain Marcus Hale, corporate wetwork specialist, the kind of man who measured success in body counts. Miss Kaya, Hale said pleasantly, been looking for you. Kaya froze. Drake raised his rifle, but Hale was faster. He fired a warning shot that scorched the deck between them. Drop it, soldier, or I drop her. Drake didn't move. Hale smiled wider. Smart man. Now let's talk business. Hale descended the ramp with the casual confidence of someone who'd already won. He was older than Drake, maybe 50, with gray at his temples and scars on his hands that spoke of decades in the field. His uniform was corporate black, tailored and spotless. A professional. You've caused us a lot of trouble, Hale said. Both of you. Drake said nothing, kept his eyes on the rifle. Calculated distances, angles, odds, all of them bad. Hale stopped 10 feet away. The corporation is prepared to make you an offer, Miss Kaya. A generous one. Kaya's voice was steady despite the rifle aimed at her skull. I'm not interested. You haven't heard it yet? Hale smiled. We'll grow you a new symbiont. Pure, stable, free from contamination. You'll have your immortality back. Better than before. All we ask in return is the man. Drake felt Kaya's shock ripple through the link. Felt her temptation, her hunger, her desperate clawing need to reclaim what she'd lost. Hale saw it too. You want your life back, don't you? Your strength, your future. 50 years wasn't enough. You were promised eternity, and now you can have it. Kaya's hand trembled. Drake watched her face, saw the war raging behind her eyes, saw the moment she made her choice. Deal, she said quietly. Drake's stomach dropped. Hale smiled. Excellent. Step aside, Miss Kaya. She did, move slowly, deliberately, putting distance between herself and Drake. Her face was unreadable. The link between them felt cold, distant, like she'd severed something vital. Drake didn't resist when the soldiers grabbed him, didn't fight when they forced him to his knees. He just looked at Kaya, trying to understand, trying to find the woman who'd fought beside him and failing. You'll get your symbiont within the week, Hale said. Our bioengineers are the best in the sector. You'll be whole again. Kaya nodded, didn't meet Drake's eyes. Take him below, Hale ordered. Prep for spinal extraction. The soldiers dragged Drake toward the shuttle. He didn't struggle. What was the point? He'd known this would happen, known that eventually everyone chose survival over loyalty. That's how the universe worked. The chains clanged as they locked around his wrists. Behind him, he heard Kaya's footsteps. Slow, measured, following. One of the soldiers muttered into his comm. Extraction in 2 minutes. Clear the... The world exploded. Kaya moved like lightning. Her blade flashed, and the soldier's head separated from his shoulders before he could scream. The second soldier spun, raising his rifle, but she was already there, inside his guard, her elbow shattering his jaw, her blade punching through his chest plate. The chains fell away from Drake's wrists. Kaya grabbed his arm, her eyes burning with fury and something fiercer. Run! They ran. Alarms shrieked. Soldiers poured from every doorway. Plasma fire turned the corridor into a hellscape of light and heat. Kaya cut through them like they were paper. Her movements savage, relentless, beautiful. Drake grabbed a rifle from a fallen soldier and covered her, picking off targets, creating openings. They fought their way back to the shuttle bay, bodies falling in their wake, blood slicking the deck. Hale was waiting at the ramp, rifle raised. He fired and Kaya took the shot in her side. She stumbled, gasping, and Drake caught her before she fell. "Foolish," Hale said. "We could have made you whole." Kaya smiled through the pain, blood on her teeth. "I don't want to be whole. I want to be free." She threw her blade. It spun end over end, perfect and deadly, and took Hale through the throat. He dropped without a sound. Drake pulled Kaya toward the shuttle. She was heavy in his arms, her breathing shallow, the wound in her side bleeding too fast. He felt her heartbeat stuttering through the link, felt her pain like it was his own. "Hold on," he said. "Just hold on." They made it to the pilot's seat. Drake slammed the controls and the shuttle's engines roared. The station fell away behind them as they punched through the debris field, plasma fire chasing them into the void. Kaya collapsed against him. Her skin was cold. Too cold. "You lied," Drake said. "You made them think you betrayed me." "Had to." Her voice was barely a whisper. "Had to make them believe. You're an idiot. Takes one to know one." Drake looked down at her, at the wound bleeding through her armor, at the way her eyes were starting to lose focus. The symbiont was trying to heal her, but it wasn't enough. They'd pushed too hard, burned too much. The link between them was fraying. "Don't you dare die on me," he said. Not planning to, but he could feel the lie, could feel her slipping away. Drake made a decision, grabbed the knife from his belt, pressed the blade to his palm and cut deep. Blood welled, golden and bright. "What are you doing?" Kaya whispered. "Sharing." He took her hand, cut her palm, pressed their bleeding wounds together. Heat exploded between them. Not painful, but fierce. Burning, alive. The symbiont surged, flowing from his blood into hers, from her blood into his, seeking equilibrium, seeking balance. The shuttle shook. The world went silent except for one sound. Thump, thump. A single unified pulse. Not his, not hers, theirs. The light between their joined hands blazed gold, then settled into a steady glow. Kaya gasped. Her eyes flew open, wide and shocked. "Drake! Shut up and let it work." The light between their joined hands grew brighter. He felt the symbiont redistribute itself, felt it find a new configuration, a new balance. Not his, not hers, theirs. The wound in Kaya's side sealed. Her breathing steadied. The cold left her skin. And when she looked at him, her eyes burned gold. "You drank my immortality. Then let's live it together." She stared at him. Then she started laughing, breathless, disbelieving, alive. "You're insane." "Probably. The symbiont wasn't meant to be split. Too late now. We could both die. Or we could both live." Kaya's laughter faded into something softer. She looked at their joined hands, still bleeding, still glowing faintly gold. "You gave me half your immortality. Our immortality. Drake, you said it yourself. When you drink another's life, you become their vessel. Well, guess what? It goes both ways now." She was silent for a long moment. Then slowly she smiled. "Two hearts. One pulse." The shuttle punched through the atmosphere of a nearby moon, leaving the station and the corporate fleet far behind. Drake set the autopilot and turned to find Kaya watching him, her expression unreadable. "Where do we go now?" she asked. "Wherever we want. They'll never stop hunting us." "Good. Let them try." Kaya reached out, her fingers brushing the scar on his palm where he'd cut himself to save her. 50 years, she whispered. "That's all the symbiont had left. 50 years to split between us. Then we better make them count." She leaned forward, her forehead pressing against his. Through the link, he felt her fear and her hope tangled together, felt her exhaustion and her fierce, stubborn will to survive, felt her gratitude and something deeper, something neither of them had words for yet. "Thank you," she said quietly. Drake closed his eyes, felt her heartbeat sync with his, felt the warmth of the symbiont flowing between them like a shared breath, like a promise neither of them could break. "You would have done the same," and he said. "Yes, I would have." The moon's surface was all volcanic glass and frozen methane seas. They landed the shuttle in a canyon where the sensor nets couldn't reach, powered down everything but life support, and collapsed on the deck. For the first time in 6 days, they let themselves stop running. Drake woke to find Kaya sitting cross-legged near the viewport, staring out at the alien landscape. Her armor was off, revealing the scars beneath, dozens of them layered over years of fighting. She looked smaller without the armor, more human, more fragile. "Can't sleep?" he asked. She glanced back. "Too quiet." "Yeah, I know that feeling." He joined her at the viewport. Outside, the methane seas reflected starlight like mirrors, turning the landscape into something from a dream, beautiful and deadly. "I never thought I'd live this long," Kaya said quietly. "When I escaped the corporations, I gave myself 6 months, maybe a year. Every day after that was borrowed time. And now? Now I have 25 years. If we're lucky," she smiled, bitter and tired. 25 years to spend running from hunters, hiding in dead stations, stealing ships. What a life. Could be worse. How? We could be dead. She laughed softly. Fair point. Drake watched her profile in the starlight, saw the exhaustion etched into her features, the weight of too many battles and too many losses. Saw the woman beneath the warrior, the person who'd chosen to save him, even when it meant giving up her chance at immortality. "Why'd you do it?" he asked. "Back on the station. You could have taken the deal. Could have gotten your symbiont back." Kaya was quiet for a long time. When she spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. "Because they would have killed you, and I couldn't." She stopped, swallowed hard. "I've lost too much already. I wasn't going to lose you too." Drake's chest tightened. "We barely know each other." "I know." She turned to face him, her eyes bright and fierce. "But I feel you, Drake. Every heartbeat, every breath, every moment you're afraid or angry or in pain. I feel it all. The symbiont linked us deeper than either of us expected. And somewhere in these last 6 days, you stopped being my vessel and started being..." She trailed off, looking away. "Started being what?" Drake asked gently. Kaya's jaw worked. "Someone I care about. Someone worth dying for." The words hung between them, fragile and dangerous. Drake reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away. When she didn't, he took her hand, felt the scar on her palm where he'd cut her to share the symbiont, felt her pulse jump beneath his touch. "I'm not worth that much," he said. "Let me decide what you're worth." "Kaya, I spent 2 years alone, Drake. Running, hiding, surviving but not living. And then you drank my symbiont, and suddenly I wasn't alone anymore. Suddenly there was someone else's heartbeat in my chest, someone else's warmth in my veins. And when you threw yourself in front of that plasma bolt to save me..." Her voice cracked. "No one's ever done that for me before. No one's ever chosen me over their own survival." Drake squeezed her hand. "Then they were idiots." She laughed, the sound wet and broken. "Maybe." They sat in silence as the stars wheeled overhead. Drake felt the symbiont pulsing between them, felt the bond growing stronger with every passing moment. It wasn't just physical anymore. It was something deeper, something that scared him more than any corporate kill squad ever could. 25 years, Kaya said finally. "That's all we have. Then let's not waste it." She looked at him, and something in her expression shifted. The armor fell away completely, leaving only raw, vulnerable hope. "What do you suggest?" Drake thought about it. About the data locked in his spine that could bring down a corporate empire. About the bounty on both their heads. About the fact that they were two fugitives with limited resources and infinite enemies. "We fight back," he said. Kaya's eyes widened. "What?" "The corporations, the hunters, everyone who's trying to kill us. We stop running and start hitting back." "Drake, that's suicide." "Maybe, but I'm tired of running, tired of hiding, tired of letting them dictate the terms." He turned to face her fully. "I have data that could expose their crimes to every independent colony in the sector. You have knowledge of their bioharvesting operations. Together we could do real damage. Or we could die trying." "Probably both." Kaya stared at him like he'd grown a second head. Then slowly a smile spread across her face. Not bitter, not tired, genuine. You really are insane. Is that a yes? That's a, let me think about it while I decide if you've completely lost your mind. Drake grinned. Fair enough. She squeezed his hand, and through the link he felt her fear and her excitement tangled together. Felt her hope kindling like a spark in dry tinder. 25 years, she said again, and you want to spend them at war. I want to spend them making a difference. And maybe, if we're really lucky, making the bastards who destroyed your people pay for what they did. Kaya's smile turned sharp. Now that I can get behind. They spent 3 days on the moon, repairing the shuttle, planning their next move, learning to live with the bond between them. Drake discovered that he could feel Kaya's emotions through the link. Not just pain or fear, but everything. Joy when she laughed, grief when she thought about her lost people, a fierce, protective warmth whenever she looked at him. It should have been invasive, should have felt like a violation. Instead, it felt like coming home. Kaya taught him about the tethered clans, their history, their culture, their fall. She spoke of her homeworld, a place of vast forests and crystal cities, where the sky burned purple at sunset and the symbiont flowed through the land like rivers of living light. She spoke of the day the corporations came, promising trade and partnership, only to unleash war and genocide. They wanted our immortality, she said, her voice flat. They dissected us, studied us, tried to replicate the symbiont in their labs. When they couldn't, they just took it by force, harvested our people like crops, sold our life essence to their elite. Drake felt her rage through the link, felt her grief like a knife in his chest. How many survived? I don't know. Hundreds maybe, scattered across the sector, hiding, running. The corporations hunt us relentlessly. They can't let us exist. We're proof of their crimes. Then we expose them. How? Who would believe us? The independent colonies, the fringe worlds, everyone who's been exploited by corporate expansion. Drake pulled up a holo display showing a map of the sector. There are resistance cells on 20 different planets. People who've been fighting the corporations for years. If we give them proof, real, undeniable evidence, they'll fight back. Kaya studied the map. You make it sound simple. It's not, but it's possible. And the data in your spine? Everything. Massacre reports, bioharvesting logs, financial records showing where the money went, enough to bring down 3 major corporations and implicate a dozen others. Kaya whistled softly. No wonder they want you dead. Yeah, I'm a walking apocalypse. She looked at him, and through the link, he felt her admiration, her pride. You stole all of that alone? Had help, my squad. They didn't make it out. The grief in his voice must have shown, because Kaya reached out and took his hand. I'm sorry. Me too. They sat in silence for a moment. Then Kaya asked, what was their plan? Your squad's? Same as mine. Get the data to someone who could use it. Expose the corporations. Maybe start a real rebellion instead of just isolated resistance. Drake's jaw tightened. They died so I could finish the job. Then we finish it. We? You said it yourself. We're partners. She squeezed his hand. Your fight is my fight now. Drake felt something warm and fierce settle in his chest. Not just the symbiont, something deeper. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. You might regret this partnership. Doubt it. Her smile was small but genuine. Optimist? Realist. I've seen you fight. We're going to do a lot of damage. Or get ourselves killed. That too. They spent the rest of the day planning. Identified targets. Corporate facilities. Supply lines, communication hubs. Mapped escape routes. Built contingencies. It felt good to have a purpose again. To be moving towards something instead of just running away. That night, Drake woke to find Kaya standing at the viewport again, but this time she was crying. Silent tears tracking down her face, her shoulders shaking with suppressed sobs. He crossed to her immediately. Kaya, I'm fine. You're not. She turned away, but he'd already felt it through the link. The crushing wave of grief and loneliness that had ambushed her in the dark. The weight of being the last of her kind. The sole survivor carrying the memories of an entire civilization. Drake didn't ask permission. He just pulled her into his arms and held her while she broke. She fought it at first, her body rigid, her pride demanding she stay strong. But then the dam burst, and she collapsed against him, sobbing into his chest with a grief so profound it made his own heart ache. "They're gone," she gasped between sobs. "All of them. My family, my friends, my entire world. And I couldn't save any of them. I just ran. I survived while they died, and I don't know how to live with that." Drake held her tighter. "You live by honoring them, by fighting back, by making sure their deaths meant something." "How? I'm just one person." "You're not one person anymore. You're two." He pulled back enough to look at her tear-stained face. "You have me, Kaya. For the next 25 years, you have me. And together, we're going to make the people who destroyed your world pay for every single life they took." Kaya stared at him, eyes red and swollen, and through the link, he felt her hope flare like a dying star reigniting. "Promise me," she whispered, "I promise. Promise me we'll hurt them. Promise me their empire will burn. I promise. We'll burn it all down." She kissed him, hard and desperate and fierce, like she was trying to anchor herself to something solid in a universe that kept shifting beneath her feet. Drake kissed her back, pouring everything he couldn't say into the contact. His grief for her loss, his rage at the injustice, his fierce determination to keep her alive and fighting. When they broke apart, Kaya was smiling through her tears. 25 years. 25 years, Drake agreed. Let's make them legendary." They left the moon at dawn, the shuttle's engines burning bright as they punched back into the void. Drake set course for the outer rim, wild space where corporate authority was thin and rebellion simmered just beneath the surface. Their first target was a corporate biofacility on Kepler 4-2b. Intelligence suggested it was one of the sites where they'd process tethered captives, extracting their symbionts for sale to the elite. If Drake's data was accurate, the facility was still operational. "We hit it hard and fast," Drake said, reviewing the schematics. "Disable their communications first. We don't want them calling for backup." Kaya studied the layout. Security? Heavy. Automated defenses, augmented guards, kill drones. They're expecting resistance. Good. I'd hate to disappoint them. They landed under cover of a dust storm, the shuttle's stealth systems keeping them off the facility's sensors. The building rose from the desert like a tumor, all sharp angles and black glass designed to intimidate. Drake felt Kaya's rage spike through the link as they approached. This place had destroyed her people, had torn them apart for profit. Every step closer made her fury burn hotter. "Stay focused," he said quietly. "Anger makes you sloppy. Anger makes me dangerous." "That too." They breached the outer wall using plasma charges. Alarms shrieked immediately, but by then they were already inside, moving through corridors lined with containment cells. Drake's stomach turned at what he saw. Empty chambers with tethered script etched into the walls, bloodstains on the floors, equipment designed for vivisection and harvest. Kaya stopped in front of one cell, her hand pressed against the glass, trembling. "They were here, my people. I can smell it. I can feel their fear." Drake put a hand on her shoulder. "Then let's make sure this place never hurts anyone again." They planted charges throughout the facility, power core, life support, data storage. Every step brought more guards, more resistance, but Drake and Kaya fought like they were one organism. He covered her flanks. She broke their formations. He disabled their tech. She cut through their armor. The symbiont surged between them, healing wounds, boosting reflexes, keeping them moving even when exhaustion threatened to drag them down. Drake felt invincible and terrified in equal measure, drunk on the power and horrified by how much it was costing them. In the facility's core, they found the harvest chambers, rows of suspension tanks, most empty, but 3 still occupied. Blue-skinned figures floated in amber fluid, eyes closed, bodies threaded with tubes and wires. Kaya made a sound like a wounded animal. "They're still alive." Drake checked the monitors. "Barely. The corporations are keeping them sedated, extracting their symbionts in microdoses, prolonging the harvest. We have to free them. Kaya, if we release them now, they'll die. Their symbionts are too depleted." "Then they die free." Her voice cracked. "Please don't let them stay in these machines." Drake looked at the 3 tethered prisoners, saw their emaciated forms, their broken horns, the scars covering every inch of exposed skin, saw what the corporations had reduced them to. He started shutting down the systems, Help me disconnect them. They worked quickly, carefully, severing connections and easing the prisoners from their tanks. The three tethered collapsed to the floor, gasping, their eyes fluttering open. One of them, a woman with silver hair, reached up and touched Kaya's face with trembling fingers. "Free," she whispered in the tethered language. Kaya had taught Drake enough that he understood. "Finally free." "Can you walk?" Kaya asked. The woman tried, failed. Her legs wouldn't support her weight. "We'll carry them," Drake said. "There's no time." "We make time." They hauled the three tethered through the facility as explosions began rocking the structure. Drake had set the charges on a timer, but the building was already starting to collapse, the power core destabilizing faster than expected. Guards blocked their path. Drake fired while carrying one of the tethered over his shoulder. Kaya fought one-handed, supporting another prisoner. The third, the silver-haired woman, clung to Drake's back, too weak to hold on but trying anyway. They made it outside as the facility erupted behind them. Fire and debris rained down, turning the desert into an inferno. Drake shielded the prisoners with his body, felt the symbiont surge to heal the burns, felt Kaya's pain through the link as she took her own share of damage. The shuttle was waiting. They loaded the prisoners and lifted off as the entire complex collapsed into flame. Inside the shuttle, Drake knelt beside the silver-haired woman. Her breathing was shallow, her eyes glazed. "Stay with us," he said. "We'll get you somewhere safe." She smiled, tired and broken. "No safe place. Not for us." Her hand found Kaya's. "But you survived. You carry our future." "I'm not." "You are." The woman's grip tightened. "Promise me. Promise you'll make them pay." Kaya's tears fell on the woman's face. "I promise." The woman's smile widened. Then her eyes closed, and her hand went limp. Drake checked for a pulse. Found nothing. The other two tethered had already stopped breathing, their bodies too damaged, their symbionts too depleted. Kaya screamed, a raw, primal sound that tore through the shuttle and echoed in Drake's chest through the link. She collapsed beside the bodies, sobbing, her fists pounding the deck. Drake pulled her away gently, held her while she shook with grief and rage. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I'm so sorry. They died anyway. We freed them, and they died anyway. But they died free. You gave them that." Kaya looked up at him, her face wet with tears. "It's not enough." "I know." Drake cupped her face in his hands. "But it's a start, and we're going to keep fighting until every facility like that is ashes." She nodded, unable to speak. Through the link, Drake felt her grief transform into something harder, colder, a fury that would burn for 25 years if she let it. They buried the three tethered on a moon with purple flowers and singing winds, a place Kaya said reminded her of home. They marked the graves with stones and tethered script that Drake couldn't read, but felt in his bones meant something like remembered or honored or avenged. As they stood before the graves, Kaya spoke in her own language, words that sounded like prayers or promises or both. When she finished, she turned to Drake. "That was 4 of my people we couldn't save. 4 out of hundreds still trapped in facilities across the sector. Then we saved the rest. How? We're 2 people against an empire." Drake pulled up the holo display, showing the network of corporate facilities he'd mapped from the stolen data. "We hit them one at a time. Free every prisoner we find. Expose every crime we uncover. Build a coalition of survivors and resistance fighters. Become the thing they fear most." Kaya studied the map, studied him. "This will take years. We have 25. We'll probably die before we finish." "Probably." She smiled, fierce and wild. "Then let's die fighting." They left the moon as the sun set, painting the purple flowers gold. Behind them, 3 graves marked the beginning of a war. Ahead, an empire waited to burn. 6 months, 14 facilities destroyed, 47 tethered freed, though only 20 survived long enough to reach the safe houses Drake had established on the fringe worlds. Every victory came with a cost. Every rescue ended with bodies. Drake felt it wearing on Kaya. The constant grief, the impossible choices, the knowledge that no matter how many they saved, hundreds more remained in captivity. She still fought like lightning, still moved with deadly grace, but the laughter had left her eyes. The hope had turned to grim determination. They were in a safe house on Titan's Reach, a frozen moon where the resistance ran deep. When the message came through, encrypted, urgent, from someone claiming to be a corporate defector with information about the largest tethered harvest facility in the sector. Drake read the message 3 times, looking for traps. Found nothing obvious, but his gut said it was too convenient. It could be a setup. Kaya looked over his shoulder. Or it could be real. The facility is on Arcturus Station, corporate headquarters. They'll have an entire fleet protecting it. Then we'll need a bigger plan. Drake pulled up everything he had on Arcturus Station. Military-grade defenses, 20,000 personnel, enough firepower to vaporize a small moon, and somewhere in its depths, according to the defector, 300 tethered prisoners waiting to die. This is suicide, he said. Everything we do is suicide. Kaya's hand found his. But if there's a chance, even a small one, we have to try. Drake looked at her, saw the determination in her eyes, the fierce refusal to give up, even when the odds were impossible. Through the link, he felt her fear and her courage tangled together, felt her absolute certainty that this was worth dying for. We'll need help, he said finally. The resistance? All of them. Every cell, every fighter, every ship we can muster. This isn't a raid anymore. It's an assault. Kaya smiled grimly. Finally. They spent 2 weeks building their coalition, reached out to resistance leaders across the sector, shared Drake's data, proved the scope of corporate crimes. Not everyone believed them. Some called them liars, others called them terrorists. But enough listened, enough cared. By the end of the 2nd week, they had a fleet, 40 ships ranging from civilian transports retrofitted with weapons to stolen corporate frigates. Not enough to win a direct engagement, but enough to cause chaos. The plan was simple: simultaneous strikes across the sector to draw corporate forces away from Arcturus Station, then a lightning raid on the facility itself. Drake would lead the ground team. Kaya would be at his side. They had one shot. The night before the assault, Drake found Kaya on the observation deck, staring out at the assembled fleet. She looked small against the backdrop of ships and stars, and through the link, he felt her exhaustion like a physical weight. Having second thoughts, and he asked, "Hundreds." She glanced at him. "But I'm still going." "Me too." Images flickered through the link, unbidden, sharp as broken glass. The blue-skinned woman dying in his arms 6 months ago, whispering, "Free." The 3 graves on the purple flower moon, the empty suspension tanks in the first facility they destroyed. The tethered child they'd found too late, symbiont already harvested, body cold. Every face, every name Kaya had tried to remember, every life they couldn't save. The weight of it pressed down like atmosphere on a dying planet. She was quiet for a moment. Then, "I never thanked you for everything you've done, for fighting beside me, for giving me hope when I had none left." "You don't need to thank me." "Yes, I do." She turned to face him fully. "When you drank my symbiont, I thought you'd stolen my life. But you didn't. You gave me a reason to keep living." Drake's throat tightened. "Kaya, let me finish." She stepped closer. 25 years, that's all we have. And I want to spend every single day of it with you, fighting beside you, living beside you, whatever comes." Drake reached up, cupped her face in his hands. "You're sure?" "More sure than I've ever been about anything." He kissed her, slow and gentle and full of every promise he didn't have words for. Through the link, he felt her joy and her fear and her fierce, unshakable love. And he poured his own back into her until they were drowning in each other. When they broke apart, Kaya was smiling. "Tomorrow we might die." "Probably." "Then let's make tonight count." They did. They made love on the observation deck with the stars as witnesses, their bodies moving together like they'd been made for this, the symbiont pulsing between them in waves of gold and heat. Every touch felt electric. Every breath felt sacred. And when they finally collapsed into each other's arms, exhausted and content, Drake felt more alive than he'd ever felt in his life. "I love you," Kaya whispered against his chest. Drake's heart stuttered. "You sure you want to say that the night before a suicide mission?" "Especially the night before a suicide mission. I don't want to die without telling you." Drake pressed his lips to her forehead. "I love you too." Through the link, he felt her joy blaze like a supernova, felt her hope and her fear and her absolute determination to survive tomorrow so they could have all the tomorrows after. They fell asleep tangled together, 2 hearts beating as one, 25 years stretching ahead like a promise neither of them would break. The assault began at dawn. The Resistance fleet hit corporate installations across 6 systems simultaneously, drawing away defenses, creating chaos. Arcturus Station scrambled its forces, splitting their attention, leaving just enough of a gap for Drake's team to slip through. They came in fast and low, a transport ship painted to look like a corporate hauler. The station's automated systems almost bought it. Almost. Then someone ran their IDs, found the forgeries, and all hell broke loose. So much for stealth, Drake muttered as plasma fire erupted around them. Who needs stealth when you have momentum? Kaya grinned, already armed and ready. They breached the station's outer hull using shaped charges, and the ground team poured through. 50 fighters, most of them survivors of corporate atrocities, all of them ready to die for this. Drake led the way, Kaya at his side, moving through corridors thick with guards and auto turrets. The symbiont burned in his veins, heightening every sense, speeding every reaction. He felt Kaya through the link, her focus, her fury, her absolute commitment. They moved like one organism, anticipating each other's actions, covering weaknesses, amplifying strengths. The facility was deep in the station's core. They fought their way down level by level, leaving bodies and burning wreckage in their wake. Drake felt every loss through the link. Resistance fighters cut down, good people dying for this cause. But they kept moving, had to keep moving. They found the harvest chambers on sub-level 9. Row after row of suspension tanks, hundreds of them, each containing a blue-skinned prisoner floating in amber fluid. The sight stole Drake's breath, stole Kaya's voice. So many, she whispered. Drake started shutting down systems. Then let's get them out. The Resistance team spread out, working quickly, disconnecting prisoners and hauling them to the transport ships. But the prisoners were weak, barely conscious, and there were so many. Too many. We'll never get them all out in time, one of the fighters said. Drake checked his chrono. Corporate reinforcements were 3 minutes out. The Resistance fleet was already falling back, their mission to create a distraction complete. If they didn't leave now, they'd be trapped. Then we make time, Kaya said fiercely. They worked faster, cutting corners, taking risks. Drake's hands moved on autopilot, disconnecting tubes, severing wires, catching prisoners before they hit the floor. Through the link, he felt Kaya's desperation matching his own. 2 minutes, 100 prisoners freed, 200 still in tanks. Drake, we have to go, the team leader said. The ships are full. We can't take any more. Then make room. There is no room. Drake looked at the tanks, at the faces floating behind glass, at the 300 lives hanging in the balance. He made a choice. Get everyone out. I'll set charges to destroy the facility. If we can't save them all, at least we can make sure the corporations never use them again. Drake, no. Kaya grabbed his arm. You'll die. Maybe, but they'll be free. I'm not leaving you. Yes, you are. He cupped her face, felt her tears on his fingers. Someone has to survive this. Someone has to tell their story. Then I'll stay too. No, you have to live, Kaya. You have to keep fighting. That's the only way this matters. Through the link, he felt her heart breaking, felt her absolute refusal to abandon him, felt her love like a knife twisting in his chest. And then he felt something else, a pulse, warm and familiar and coming from outside his body. Drake spun, saw the silver-haired tethered woman from 6 months ago, standing in the doorway, alive and whole, her eyes burning gold. Impossible, Kaya breathed. You died. No, I survived. The woman smiled. Thanks to you, thanks to the symbiont you carry. It healed me slowly, from a distance, through the bond you share. She stepped forward. And now I'm here to help. More tethered emerged behind her. 20 of them, survivors from the facilities Drake and Kaya had destroyed. All of them armed, all of them ready. You freed us, the silver-haired woman said. Now let us free our people. Drake stared. Kaya laughed, the sound bright with disbelief and hope. Can you hold the station? Drake asked. The woman's smile turned sharp. Watch us. The tethered moved like a storm. They knew the layout, knew the systems, knew exactly how to tear the facility apart from the inside. While they fought, Drake and Kaya loaded the last of the prisoners onto the transport ships. 300 freed, 0 left behind. The transport lifted off as explosions rocked the station. Drake watched through the viewport as Arcturus Station, symbol of corporate power, monument to atrocity, tore itself apart in fire and fury. Beside him, Kaya stood silent, her hand gripping his so tight it hurt. Not from pain, from remembrance. Through the viewport, the station burned. And in the reflection on the glass, Drake saw them. Ghosts superimposed over the flames. The silver-haired woman smiling as she died free. The 3 prisoners from the purple flower moon. The child they'd found too late. The 47 freed. The 20 who survived. Every face they'd saved and every face they'd lost, layered one over another like a film strip of war. Kaya's voice was barely a whisper. They're all there. Everyone who fought, everyone who died, everyone who's still fighting. Yeah, Drake said quietly. They are. The ghosts faded as the station collapsed into itself, consumed by fire. But their presence remained, in the resistance fleet regrouping around them, in the 300 freed tethered, stirring awake, in the weight of the promise Drake and Kaya carried between them. They died as warriors, he said quietly. No, they died as heroes. The transport punched through the debris field, leaving Arcturus Station burning behind them. Around them, the resistance fleet regrouped, battered but triumphant. On board the ships, 300 tethered prisoners stirred, waking to freedom for the first time in years. Kaya leaned into Drake, exhausted and exhilarated. Through the link, he felt her grief and her pride tangled together, felt her love blazing brighter than ever. We did it, she said. Yeah, we did. What now? Drake pulled up the stolen data, showed her the network of facilities still remaining, the hundreds of prisoners still waiting, showed her the resistance cells already mobilizing, the coalition growing stronger by the day. Now, he smiled, now we keep fighting, until every facility is ashes, until every prisoner is free, until the corporations that destroyed your people are nothing but a footnote in history. Kaya kissed him, fierce and fast. 25 years. 25 years, let's make them legendary. Through the viewport, dawn broke over a distant planet, painting the clouds gold. The transport's engines hummed. Around them, freed prisoners stirred, beginning to wake. The resistance fleet spread out like stars against the void. Drake and Kaya stood silhouetted against the burning station, 2 figures backlit by fire and fury. The viewport reflected their faces, scarred, exhausted, alive. Behind them, Arcturus collapsed into itself, a dying sun swallowed by its own gravity. Kaya's hand found Drake's, their fingers intertwined, palms pressed together where the scars still glowed faintly gold. Flames crawled behind them, painting their joined shadows as one. No words, just the sound that had become their anthem, their heartbeat, their promise. Thump thump, thump thump. 2 hearts, 1 pulse, an empire to burn. Silence. Then one heartbeat echoing through the fire.